Hello everyone, it's Eon here, and it's time to get into October 2024. We're in October, so we're going to start our first review of releases as they're coming out officially from various Patreons and tribes. As always, if I'm missing someone that you think I should be including, please leave a comment below and let me know. Usually, if I don't see anything from a particular creator, I'm just going to skip them rather than tell you that I'm skipping them. So let's get going. We've got a lot to do. Artisan Guild this month is releasing Rise of the Beastmen, which comes with many different miniatures in various forms. It reminds me of playing Diablo 3. Yes, Diablo 3, that way back when. So, even Diablo 2 to a great extent. Anyway, I digress. So, we have the Gobor Warriors here that come with swappable weapons, and some more Gobor Warriors, or Gober. Here we have the Chaos Minox, more Minotaur Bull-looking Beastmen, and some more Chaos Minox as well. These would actually be pretty good for like a Wheel of Time type deal. Here we have Beastlord Basgor the Butcher. This is the alternative version. I couldn't find a good picture of the original version. I think you can see it in the big overall viewpoint on the right there, but they don't have a big image of just the original version there. Well, no, there's Vorkron the Beastman Aberration, so maybe I'm wrong there. And then Kavroon the Gabor Bone Dancer. You can tell he's dancing because his leg's up. We have a Beastman Menhir, which is a piece of terrain, and then we have Kazra Gorbor Priestess, and a pinup version of that as well. And we have multiple weapons so that you can swap these out to your heart's content. Arbiter Miniatures is releasing Ogres this month, Mighty Ogres, and one thing Arbiter really pushes is they have miniatures that are both supportless and pre-supported, depending on how you want to print them. And these are different sculpts. They're not the same sculpts. We have these characters here. I'm impressed that the one on the left is carrying around an anvil, as though it's not that heavy. And I'm guessing that's a wagon wheel. And these are the other supportless. Next up, we have Archvillain Games, and Archvillain Games does both fantasy and sci-fi. We're going to focus on the Bloodright Crimson Legion, which is the fantasy release, so very vampiric this month. Lord Vladis the Eternal is riding on I don't know what to call that. Looks like a rat. We have a Darkfang Bat Swarm and a Dracolath Terror. A Fleshvine Orchid, Karnos the Bone Reaper, with rats. Valora the Revenant Queen, and Ravena Blackwing. Ravena. We have a Blutgeir Harrower. These come in 4 sculpts. I believe these are vampires of some sort. And then we have the Blutgeir Lamia 1. Comes in 4 different sculpts. Then we have the Blutgeir Marauders. More like a man-bat sort of thing. Then we have the Blutgeir Shepherd, which I believe these are more werewolf-like. But they have some very heavy armor over their faces. Some nasty weapons. And then we have a Drakenthar, and Archvillain, you do a great job of creating your own world. I give you that. Are these supposed to be like a centaur bat human creature? I'm not sure, but these are certainly unique. Next up, we have Bite the Bullet Studios, and as I was going through and putting this together, this is their October release, Grove Haven, and I really like these characters. It's probably the Disney kid in me to that extent. Looking at these characters, we're going to look at their colorized version renders. But I was thinking Burrows and Badgers when I saw this, which is miniatures. Not necessarily agnostic, they do make miniatures for it, but it's these types of characters. If you've ever read Redwall by Brian Jacques, very similar style war game. But apparently, most of this is inspired by the game Humblewood. And if you notice this little hedgehog bard here, we'll see a miniature version of him in a minute. So let's get into this. So they do have a throwback as well, just saying. But we have several different figures here, and I don't know if these have, I don't think these have particular names. I think these are like Raccoon Ken and such like that. But I will say, for anybody out there that's a Robert Jordan fan, I can't look at the raccoon and not think about Matt with the dice in his hand. Here we have a more mage-like raccoon, and we have a frog, and another type of frog. I really like the armor on that squirrel. And then there's the hedgehog bard that I mentioned earlier. I believe that's a hedgehog. It could be a porcupine, but I believe it's a hedgehog. I find it interesting that the newt salamander lizard is got an ant companion. Cardinal keeping bees, and the bees are actually pretty scaled well. That mole, by the way, comes in a variety with goggles. I should have included that picture. Apologies. And there's our squirrel girl character. Cast and Play always has a great release, and this month it's Halloween season, but of course. So we have a pumpkin prowler. I love how they show you the miniature painted, and I do believe that's actually painted and not rendered, and then we see a render as well. We have a dark treant. A wizard should know better. We have some specters, if you see them. We have some cursed pumpkins. I never would have thought of a pumpkin as a threat, but I suppose these would be. Here we have the Skull Syndicate. They come in from all sorts of walks of life. Here we just have some undead folk. Bring out your dead with the cart, right? Creepy puppet. The askew eyes and the painted miniature add a lot of character to that. The spider cluster. Very well painted. Tiny skulls. An elder mind. Dullahan Headless Riders. Looks like one's completely lost his head. Undead Companions. And nobody ever thinks about the undead pigs or undead cows that you would find on the farm, but I'm glad Cast and Play included those. I don't imagine there's a lot of those out there. There's the throwback, which comes from several different releases. They don't just redo one release. They find miniatures and kind of put them together that work along with this release. So if you've missed some of those or really want some other young ints or dead trees, cerebrum hounds or sprites, cursed zombies and spiders, or what was that, opioid protector, this is the month where you can get those again. And of course some Halloween bases as well. Next up, we have Clay Beast Creations, and they apparently are doing, I think they called their release Spooky Skeletons. We saw some of these in the preview, so we have the Immortal Sage and the Bone Crawler. These are marrow constructs with shields, I'm fairly certain. And then the Magenta Kachiko is a bust, and I do want to read this from their Patreon. It says, "Finally, we have a special treat as I'm unveiling a special model Magenta Kachiko. This bust was designed with their second 2024 painting contest winner, Just Add Magenta, on Instagram. He is an awesome artist and loves busts, so we had to make him a special one. After many talks, we settled on something he'd never really seen, a scary vampire geisha. It was really cool to work on, quite different from my usual work, so I hope you'll like it." I think you nailed it. Marrow constructs with swords on the right, and then for a throwback, because it kind of fits the motif, we have a Grove Guardian. Crippled God Foundry does both fantasy and sci-fi. For this video, of course, we're focusing on the fantasy, and most of these were done in the preview video. So we have Skeleton Knights. Some with helmets, some without. We have a throwback collection. Then we see the Centaur Death Knights and Alberek, the Death Knight Lord. We have some Death Knights and Death Drake Riders. Possessed Brutes and Doom Knights. We have Brother Finnan, the Exorcist, and again, I just love that miniature. I love the expression on his face. And Skeleton Squires. We have Harkin, the Doom Wizard Overlord. I like that miniature too. And Lyriel, the Elf Shield Maiden. I like that miniature too. And I absolutely love Sir Thalion the Cavalier. I love his armor. I love his shield. I love the horse. The fact that he's mounted or unmounted, so if you play a character that has a horse, you have options with him. It's a great set of miniatures, I have to say. Here we have Nicholas the Death Cleric and Alberic the Death Knight Lord as a bust. We also get several terrain pieces as well. The Death Knight Stronghold entrance reminds me a lot of my 1980s childhood. I'm sure most of you get that. And of course there's some more terrain on the right, and I just wanted to show this figure again because he has taken arrows. I think Death Knight means a little bit different with him. It means that he was dead. Not that he brings death, but I bet he does that too. DM Stash has released previews, and this is pretty much what we saw in the preview. So we won't spend too much time. I think I've added a couple of miniature previews that I didn't include in the preview. So they always release some terrain that you can print on a 2D map. So you get the 2D printable with a color printer, and you have terrain and miniatures that you can print off in your 3D printers. We have Werewolf Warriors. Again, very nice werewolves. And we have Arthur Belfry, the Lord of the Coven. Bound in the Blood Moon is the theme for this month. We have Bloodclaw, an abominable werewolf, and Kahira, the elven sundancer. Here's the terrain set of the Cemetery of the... and Corsicus, the werewolf knight. Here's Arthur Belfry again, but as a bust. Here we have Celine de la Rouge, a vampire hemomancer. In the world of Avatar, that would have been a crime. Here we have a Dreadclaw, which is a Wendigo monstrosity. Not Wendigo, Wendigo. Unless that's a typo. But I don't know. We have a Shambling Corpse Mound. Tharia the Moonshadow, the Cleric of Glanbelly. And Sir Gaston, the Vampire Knight. Looks like he has vials ready to go on his side. Vampire Thralls of the Coven and Dane the Masquetta Man. Dragon Trapper's Lodge is changing a lot of things about how they do stuff, and I'm not exactly sure what to look at. So they are launching on Things this month, and just to give them a shout out in case you want to catch up on this, I'm going to read from their tribe. We're excited to announce we're offering the chance for 50% off for 2 months of models with a 4-month subscription. That's 1 whole free month of models exclusively through our Thang store. That's right, we're launching our current releases on Thang. Same price, same awesome models, same reliable pre-supports and all delivered through a fast to download modern storefront. Try Thangs is a unique promotion whereby you commit to 4 months continuous tier support at your chosen tier level, veteran, trapper, or soldier, and in doing so you get the first 2 months 50% off. So looking at their releases every month, they have the Ruining of Lothshire Village, Champion of the Critterfolk Part 2 for Soldier tier, and notice that they are starting up a Patreon for Dungeon Classics, but I don't see a link for that just yet. Hopefully we'll look at that in overview number 2 later this month. So just to be aware, they are starting up a new Patreon, and I did not have a chance to go look for that. So we're going to look really quickly at the concept art that we've already looked at for the Ruining of Lothshire Village, which is their first release this month. And we have some peasants, some village folk, but they seem to get ruined, and there's some terrible things happening to people in Lothshire. For the soldier tier, we have these critter folk continuing a trend here. Again, we've seen a lot of these, so I'm moving through these quickly. Again, I really like the squirrel with the Robin Hood motif. And like I said, they are releasing Dungeon Classics as a new Patreon tribe that we're going to come back and look at in a little bit more detail. So these are more of your regular Dungeons & Dragons models. Alright y'all, it's time for Epic Miniatures. Update number 1, Legends of the East. We have a noble carriage, as well as many different types of terrain scatter pieces. We don't need to list everything there. We have village houses east, and then some boats. A Dragon Watch Tower, front and back. The Panda Bear. Again, I think I said it in the preview and I'll say it here. This is one of those miniatures where your paint job is going to make the world of difference. Honestly, on the left, you have almost just a generic bear. This is the Shaolin Monk, comes in 3 different poses. The Monk Adventurer Female. The False Emperor. And the flavor text they have for this says, a chieftain from the northern barbarian tribes. He usurped the throne of the emperor. Now he reigns with fear and terror. Phoenix Hatchling. Drunk Master. Warrior Empress. Here we have a tiger, and again, the paint job is what's going to be what truly makes this miniature. Legendary Ronin. Just a close-up of the cloak that he's wearing. An Oni Samurai. Bushy Centaur. Samurai Woman. Martial Arts Monk. Asura Prince. Only one scope of this, it appears. Turtle Zila. I think we all know what this was inspired by. Comes in 4 sculpts, though. Monk Adventurer Male. And the Emperor Lunged Dragon rounds out this update number 1. But in epic fashion, they have already released update number 2. This is a fire giant. We'll get to this in a minute. Savage Attack is the theme for update number 2. We start with an Inferno Wyvern. I feel like there was an Inferno Wyvern in a previous release in a previous month, but I don't know. Here we have an Orc Warrior, a Myrmidon Earth, an Orc Tiefling Female. That is a terrible combination, in my opinion. A Bugbear Raider. When I saw the theme, I thought Bugbear, and sure enough, here's a Bugbear. This was a Fire Giant. Bit different model of what I'm used to for a Fire Giant. Less mustache and beard than what I normally think of, which is not a bad thing. I actually like the new look. This is a Grey Orc Alchemist, an Etten Mutant General. I think he's singing in that one on the right, or they are. Here we have a half-orc Fisher Female, a Fire Newt, a Hill Giant Smasher. Those toes, I don't know what to say. Young Barbarian. He reminds me of a young fella. I wonder if there'd be a unicorn in this release. Here we have a Mountain Boulet. I always heard it was pronounced Boulet. If I'm mispronouncing it, apologies. Won't be the first time, won't be the last. And here we have an Arctic Boulet. We have a half-orc Adventurer, a Savage Troll, an Agrillin. And if you did not know, an Agrillin is the result of an orc and an ogre breeding. More powerful than regular orcs, usually the most brutal warriors in an orc clan. This is an Orog female. And if you did not know, an Orog is an orc that lives in the Underdark. More sensitive to light than regular orcs, they tend to be smaller than the female ones. The females tend to be smaller than the males. And that rounds out about 100 miniatures from Epic Miniatures. Flesh of Gods Miniatures is releasing the Cursed Tome this month. So we have heroes and NPCs here. Erikar, Hexios, Cursed Librarian, Lana, Rust, Gary, and Thebius. We have some enemies that are medium size, as in normal size. And there's some interesting ones. The Void Chancellor is a different looking miniature, in my opinion. There's a few possessed villagers, a Void Witch, Grigor the Beast of the Void, and Grigor Son of the Void, a Void Saint, and little Ivan Grigor's heir. So it looks like it's all about Grigor this month. Then we have some large enemies, a Tome Wraith, a Void Brute, Ifrit, Genie of Fire. Wasn't expecting that head on that, and an Eldritch Weapon. We have some huge and gargantuan enemies, such as the Bone Effigy, a Great Old One, and a Dark Mother. We have the frame diorama. This is Sigils of the Void. A couple of busts. Hexios, the Dark Mother's Warlock, and Rust, Great Old One's Warlock, excuse me. And then in the throwback, we have a Flesh Golem, a Chronal Abomination, and a High Order Inquisitor. Fleshcraft Studios is releasing the Bloody Cellar. We saw this in the preview, so we saw the Master, Edric the Cruel, which comes also with a trophy. The champion is the Sadists. The 3 elites are Excruciators. and minions are 5 withered. Next up, we have Ghamak. Ghamak has released some previews. I really want to see the releases here. I'm really looking forward to this trick-or-treat house village diorama. But these dwarves seem to all be carrying either axes or crossbow. So when I looked through my release, because I do actually subscribe to Ghamak, I saw this in my library. So we're going to pull these images and believe these are part of the October release. We see these crossbows. These do not look like anything I saw from the September release. And there were some orcs, but I'm pretty sure those were from the September release. So Ghamak likes to release throughout the month. We'll see more official renders later this month. Goonmaster has already previewed the Filthy Fly Folk for us, as well as the Lumpkins have now been released to be seen. So being October, we have to have our spooky sort of miniatures. We don't have to, but many Patreons do that. Great Grimoire has already released their release for October, the Cathedral of Shadows. We have Azilmera. I feel like that L and Z should be the opposite way. Azilmera. Freylon. Again, if you look behind his back, it's a little bit not what you would expect from a man of God. We have Casimir. And we have a bust of Azilmera if you would like to paint her. Highlands Miniatures is going over to Transylvania, the Fallen Realm, this month. And we're getting all of these different miniatures. So let's look at those up close. So the Vampire Knights, which I believe also comes with a command group within this. Skeletal Guard that have hand weapons and shields. Highlands always does a good job of showing you a render and then showing you what it actually looks like printed. Here we have the Skeletal Guard with great weapons. Skeletal Lord on foot. A Grim Reaper. Imp3 Desion is releasing what I believe is a fantasy release. Yes, pretty sure. We have a 75mm miniature assassin elf, so a larger scale for painting. We have a 35mm scaled forest dragon, and some rogue elves and ranger elves. So let's take a look at those. So here's our 75mm elf assassin from several angles. There's the dragon, and then here are some of the rangers. I believe these would be rogues, since they don't have bows. And a few more. Labyrinth Models is releasing several things. They seem to be doing a couple of bonus things this month. So if I'm saying something wrong here, I do apologize. It's not my intention. According to them officially, the release this month includes the Spider Witch, 2 Dark Elf Sorcerers, 5 Spider Cultists, 5 Dark Elf Assassins, 3 Spider Vestals, and 3 Spider Demons, which you can all see in this image here. So there's the Spider Demons, the Dark Elf Assassins, the Dark Elf Sorcerers, or Sorceress, Spider Vestals, Spider Cultists, and for the month of October, the bonus model, the Halloween Spider Witch. But they have released recently that apparently one of the first models, if not the first model ever released by Labyrinth, were the Black Widows, and these models have been remastered. And if I understand correctly, if you bought the original set way back when, then you'll be getting these for free since they've been remastered. Or if you're a member of the Patreon for the month of October, or Tribe, then you'll get those as well. If I am misspeaking, Labyrinth, I apologize. Not that you'll probably ever watch my video, but just to let you know that they have remodeled. And these are amazing, great, nice models, especially if you're into the kind of drow characters. Loot Studios this month is doing the Abyssal Haze. There's everything at a glance. These are the enemies. So we have a Gremlin Cat, a Flayed Skin, Sightless Torturer, Lord Gaspard the Parasite, a Voidmouth, a Dreadful Nurse, Screeching Bodak, Cursed Maiden, a Void Hydra, Bellhead, and Prince of the Void. The Void has shown up in a couple of Patreons this month. Here are our three heroes. They got their work cut out for them. We have Cornelia Dawn, Tainted Hunter, and Nathan the Hound. Are those swords or pistols in his hands? They have many objects and terrain for your perusal. We have staircases and fountains, levers, bells, statues, and more. We usually get 3 to 4 busts. This month it looks to be 3. We have the Tainted Hunter, Bellhead, and Cornelia Dawn as busts. They also like to do a prop, so the Void Lamp is your prop for this month. New to my videos, per request, and I apologize for not including it any sooner, is Lost Kingdom Miniatures. Thanks for the recommendation. For the October release, I know I'm going to mispronounce these. We have the Baizé, the Barusta Hero on Denglong, Korosubo Hero, and the Chukunu Regiment. So let's look at each of those in turn. Pretty sure this is the Baizé. Bazi. I've never been good with accent marks. The Barusta Hero on a Denglong. Very interesting critter there. It is about 3 or 4 different creatures all in one. Here we have the Korosubo Hero, and that weapon is amazing. That is a fascinating piece of work there. Here we have the Chukunu Regiment, and I believe this is the command group is what CG stands for, because that looks like a musician and a standard bearer. And then just more of the regiment. These are the same miniatures, just different poses. It's weird to me to see elves with crossbows. Used to seeing them with longbows. Mantic Vault is every month from Mantic Games. This month is pretty much all fantasy. It's all fantasy. It's either Vanguard or Armada. No sci-fi this month. I suppose between Dead Zone and the upcoming Halo release, they are sci-fi'd out, or their focus is elsewhere there. So let's look and see. You get a complete Dwarven skirmish band for Vanguard, which is their fantasy skirmish game. We have a Dwarf Flame Priest. We have a Dwarf Ironclad. A Dwarf Iron Guard. A Dwarf Iron Watch. A Dwarf Levy. A Dwarf Packmaster. A Dwarf Scout. A Dwarf Shieldbreaker. A Dwarf Steel Juggernaut. A Dwarf Upgrade Set. So if you have some other dwarf figures and you want to change more options, now you have those. And then for the Armada, which is their skirmish naval battle game, they are releasing a new faction, the Kingdoms of Men. This is a Brig class small, Frigate class medium, which I admit I almost thought was the same thing as the Instigator class medium. Very similar looking ships, but not the same. And then a gunboat, tiny. I really feel like Mr. Modulork is more of a sci-fi guy. I'm still relatively new to introducing him to my videos, but I wanted to give a shout out here because the teaser video only releases this image, and a lot of this could be used in a fantasy setting. So there's a free tier that you can sign up for to get these, and again, these fit perfectly well in a fantasy setting. One Page Rules is continuing Shadow Stalkers this month, as well as the Human Defense Force, which is brand new. That'll be in the sci-fi video, so go watch that there, but let's focus on the Shadow Stalkers. First, Age of Fantasy Quest gets a new hero this month, the Vinci Bard. But let's go back to the Shadow Stalkers. So I believe this is the legendary Shadow Stalkers Ars Ascended Fiend. Here you can see the entire release in a couple of different renders. Now, there is one miniature, if you look to the top left there, I believe that is a Great Fiend, but there's no single picture of that miniature for me to show you, so that's where you're going to see that. The Shadow Stalkers, I believe these are the Reaper Champions. You get 2 of those this month. I'm pretty sure this is the Reaper Flying Beast. Whoops, I forgot to change the type there. Sorry. These are just the Shadow Stalkers. I knew I goofed something up. And these are Fiends. And of course, you always get some bases and gaming aids. Now, One Page Rules, I think every quarter changes their welcome pack. And so here's the welcome pack that has been updated. It includes Vampiric Undead. So if you missed any of those Vampiric Undead, you can pick them up this month in the welcome pack. Notice the welcome pack also includes some Dwarf Guilds, which is for the sci-fi release, and they have 4 heroes for the Age of Fantasy. So if you need someone to adventure with your Vinci Bard, there's 4 people to help her out there that you're going to get as well. The Printing Goes Ever On has done an initial release of their release this month. It's Tales of the Jade Empire. Again, Printing Goes Ever On is added 2 tiers, so they have what they call their Wargaming tier, which is the top one, and then they have their RPG tier at the bottom, which is the Slayer Masquerade. For October, you're going to be basically getting some various samurai and ninja sort of critters. I'm not sure where this fits into the general world that we're so used to seeing in the Printing Goes Ever On. I had never read the Silmarillion, so I don't really know where this fits in, but that's what we get. And then for the RPG tier, there's a list of minis on the left that you'll be getting, and you can see some renders of these, but we don't have any more detailed renders just yet, other than this Oriental Storm Dragon. Rescale Miniatures has done their release this month. We see the Hollow Graves, excuse me. This is the first image showing everything that you get, and here is the second image showing everything. Now, their miniatures come in so many varieties, it's very difficult for me to show you everything. So here, for example, we see this Karen character on a boat. And the chariot is fascinating. If you watch the preview, we put their colored render of that on that video. But this chariot has a lot going on, just to kind of emphasize some of the detail that you get in this figure. It's really a diorama. And here's just a few of the miniatures that you get. Now, as I go about here, I want you to understand the level of detail that Rescale puts into their miniatures. This miniature comes in 5 varieties. So depending on how many layers, so just watch. Here we have the first layer, And then we can add a second layer. And then we can add a third layer. And then we can add a rider. And then we can add some armor to our horse. That's 5 different miniatures that are basically the same miniature, but each one slightly different depending on what you want. So you get lots of options with what they release. Here's a few other renders just to show you a sampling of the hollow graves. I keep wanting to say hollow graves. And of course, they almost always seem to be releasing a dragon, and these are beautiful dragons. RNE Studio is doing Verminlot Volume 2 for the month of October. So I don't have names for these miniatures offhand, as this was more of a preview than a release. So we'll just look in awe. STL Miniatures has gotten better about releasing their previews, and we've already seen most of this, so let's look at a few more details. We have the Masquerade set. Again, you always get a few miniatures, and you get a bunch of terrain that you can print out in great detail. Now, STL Miniatures has the Terror Wing for their Rangers release, and then the Slime set for Frost City. A little bit more on that in a minute. Just notice the beauty of this tree with all its intricate scarves. I wonder how many pieces this prints off as. And we have our characters in Masquerade. Even the servants are participating. Even the tent has a mask. Again, it reminds me of the Andrew Lloyd Webber song from Phantom. If you forgot your mask, I think they've got some ready for you. Now, before I leave STL Miniatures, let me give a shout out to them. As I've mentioned before, that they do have a Kickstarter that is currently open, and that is Frost City 3. They are completing the saga. The miniatures that are released here are intended for use mostly for the game Frostgrave, which is a miniatures agnostic war game that you can play by yourself or play with some friends. Now, again, it's not officially done by Frostgrave because Frostgrave has their own official miniatures, but that's the intention. And there's lots of miniature agnostic games out there. In fact, there's some being added every month that you can use these miniatures for. And miniature agnostic games are becoming more and more popular as more and more people are trying to get their product out there to be used in many different places. But definitely worth checking out the Kickstarter. I'll have a link down below. No, I don't get anything from it. I just want to help out a great creator. Terrain Essentials is a secondary Patreon from Cast and Play, the same people that bring you that one at least, and this month it appears it's the Traveler's Guide to the Lost Castle. So here we see a lot of the pieces all at once that can be put together to kind of create the shambles of a castle. We have the Lost Throne. We have various pieces of castle scatter. We have some columns. Some that are still holding up what they can. Sometimes I feel like that. Sorry. Castle modular walls. Lots of caps and intersections included as well to kind of put these together. Hidden heirlooms. So your characters can go treasure hunting within this lost castle. Titan Forge Miniatures is releasing this month. Again, they typically release some wargaming, a little bit of RPG, and some other stuff too. So we've seen a lot of this already. Let's just look at it all again. We have some orcs, a couple of different mounts for our orc here, or he can be unmounted if you so wish. We have some orcs riding, I suppose those are just boar. And some, like, primal orcs. Then we have Carnival. Or Carnival, I suppose I should say. And these come in a few different varieties of sorts. Notice that we have this big frog creature on the left being ridden by this guy, or if you so wish, this guy on the right, he may want to take it for a ride too. Here we have some, not sure what they're supposed to be, demons. We have some frogs. Here we have the mounts without their riders. Then we have the various RPG miniatures as well. So we have some bad guys on the left. Notice this Dragonborn character, I believe that's what they call them, comes in 3 different sculpts, as does this one. And the woman on the left comes in 3 different sculpts as well. So there they are, all 3 together, and some bases as well. TPK Lab has not actually done anything since their preview, so let's review the preview real quick. These are some renders. This is Bella, Master of Seduction. Here we have Grata, an ancient hag, the stuff of nightmares. We have Maristha, the leader of the Dark Coven, a Lich Lord Witch. And we have a cursed tree. White Werewolf Tavern has also not done an official release that I can see. We have Malevolent Mischief. And I was really, again, I was expecting a kind of cutesy thing with this little diorama piece, and that one is, but some of these miniatures get pretty dark when we look at the Malevolent Mischief release. We have Alberta the Soul Flayer and a Bonesmith. Mine's, again, characters I feel like from Diablo. We have the Crimson Huntress. I can't decide if that's her hand or if that's an... I don't think she has a hand at all, does she? Yeah, I wonder if her daddy's name is Freddy. Seraphim the Dreadmother on the right, and again, it gets more terrifying the farther you go down. We have a Grimblade Revenant and the Skullbreaker. And then we have an Inferno Hound. Worldforge Miniatures is doing a Market Collection 3 this month, which comes with multiple different sculpts and accessories to round this out. Adan Cafe. So anyway, that is our first overview video for the month of October. We'll be coming back to view more as the month carries on, maybe in a week, probably in 2 weeks. And about that time, it'll be almost time to start previewing November. This month will fly by, I just know it will. Anyway, y'all have a great one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.